Welcome back to How to Be a Better DM, the official podcast of Monsters.rent. I'm Justin Lewis.
And I'm Tanner Wayland.
And we are here to help you tell better stories for yourself and your players as you dungeon master sessions of D&D, Dungeons & Dragons. We'd like to give you some quick announcements. We actually have one before the show, and then after the show, if you want to stick around, we have some more announcements then as well. But first, let's talk about this. Tired of being alone? Are you tired of not having any of your players understand you? Are you tired of never truly belonging? Well, you're in luck. All you need to do is join the Guild. The Guild is a unique and exclusive experience that is only open to Dungeon Masters. It is a full community focused on helping ease your DMing burdens. Want to meet other DMs? Join the Guild. Want to discuss your homebrew ideas with people who would appreciate it instead of just telling your cat? Join the Guild. Want to find a place where all your wildest dreams will come true? Join the Guild. Go to monsters.rent/guild and sign up today for free. Wait, that can't be right. Chuck, can you check this again? Is this supposed to be... What? Oh, they're serious? It's free? Oh, okay. All right. Yes, go to monsters.rent/guild and sign up today for free, even though they are crazy for giving this away for free. Common side effects may include burping, sneezing, laughing, breathing, hearing, listening, tasting, farting, critting, sarcasm, and in extreme cases, explosive diarrhea. Awesome. With that out of the way, we can get into today's show. You and your companions get off the boat and onto the dock of New Tuyen. You look around, letting the sights and sounds greet you. You walk towards the city and allow yourself to acclimate to this new city. You first notice all the green. The buildings and roads are all made with the same green material. After talking to a local citizen, you learn that the material is actually a moss that is particularly dense and sturdy. You also take in the smells of local street vendors who season their meats with intoxicating spices. Your stomach rumbles and your mouth salivates as you pass one particular stall. The thing that strikes you the most, though, are the people. You've heard about genassi, but you weren't prepared for this. Every person you see has the form and shape of humanoids, but instead of skin, you simply see elements. One man made of fire walks past you without burning you, and immediately after, a woman made of shifting sand walks by without leaving any sand behind. Each person wears clothing like normal, and their bodies are shaped like yours, but they seem so foreign. Especially alien to you are the space genassi. Their bodies look like fields of stars, and their hair looks like nebula. You've never seen anything so beautiful yet strange. Welcome to New Tuyen. What would you like to do? Welcome back to the third episode of How to Be a Better DM. I'm your host, Justin Lewis. Together, you and I will explore how to tell better stories for yourself and your players as you DM sessions of Dungeons & Dragons 5e. We all know that planning D&D sessions is tough. Most of us do it only so we can play the session. There are those few of us who are masochists at heart and enjoy the torture, but I'm not talking to those freaks today. Instead, I'm talking to the other freaks who don't necessarily love preparing for D&D sessions. But you still love playing the game and being a D&D or a DM anyways. So you're probably asking the question, how much should I plan for my D&D session? You've got lots of things to worry about in life. You probably have a job, kids, a spouse, other hobbies, your physical fitness, or lack thereof in my case, dog, parents, friends, everything else that's going on in life. So you can't plan every move that your players would ever make. That would just take way too long. Instead, I'm going to give you a simple answer and more complex answer to the question of how much should I plan for one session of D&D? The simple answer is that you should plan more than you think you should, but less than your players think you have. I'll say that again. You should plan more than you think you should, but less than your players think you have. Simple, right? Well, let's unravel it just a bit. Number one, you need to plan to finish what you've started. I've covered this idea before, but you need to plan to finish what has been started in the last session. This is the minimum requirement. Right now in the campaign I'm leading with my players, I have two characters who just started two separate combat encounters while the rest of the party is back at camp trying to long rest. So naturally, I have to prepare these two separate encounters. For me, that looks like reading into the capabilities of the adversaries that they will be fighting, as well as making sure I know what they can do and what they will most likely be doing. This also means thinking about the motives behind my players and their enemies to try and figure out the most likely way that things are going to play out. But knowing my players, it's likely something that I can't even predict, and that's okay. Number 2 is 2 to 3 paths. After finishing these 2 encounters, I'll likely have an opportunity to ask the fateful question of, what do you want to do now? That means the players will have a chance to think about all the many options that they have to do stuff and pick something. They'll have to pick something. Again, there's no possible way I can predict everything they're going to do, so I like to try and pick 3 possible paths that the players can choose. And I'm not really at liberty to discuss those paths because actually one of the players is one of the new hosts on this show, Caden Otley. He was in one of the previous episodes, so I can't really talk about it, but I like to have at least 2 or 3 prepared so that way I'm somewhat ready. Number 3, random encounter fodder. It also helps to have some tables for random encounters in your back pocket. If you're playing a pre-made campaign, those books will likely have some made for you. I think it's also fun to add in some if-then situation. This is kind of a coding situation, or a coding terminology. For example, one of my players has a certain homebrew item that I gave to her many sessions ago. Since she attuned to it, I've had her keep track of how many monsters she's killed with that item. She finally reached 10 kills, and because of that, it's triggered something new that will happen in the next session when she falls asleep. You can create all sorts of if-then situations to help you plan what happens. If player so-and-so does this and that, then the unexpected happens. Kind of simple. It's nice to have something like that in your back pocket the whole campaign, so when it finally does happen, you're ready. Number 4, finish the next path stepping stone. So I say a good rule of thumb is to plan past at least one next major stepping stone. There's a chance you won't finish it, but on the off chance you do, at least you're ready. This means that at a minimum, you have a general idea of everything that happens in the dungeon, for example. You know where the rooms are, and you know how it's all going to go down, more or less. Usually a lot less, but at least you have the map, and you have every single room laid out, so that way they step in, you know what happens in that room. Number 5, remember, it's a skill. Planning D&D sessions is above all else a skill, and therefore requires practice. There will be sessions where halfway through you realize you have nothing else prepared. That's okay. There will also be sessions where you finish the night and realize that you didn't get to half of what you had prepared. That's an awesome feeling. As you go through playing D&D, you'll learn instinctually how much to plan for each session. Number 6 is somewhat of a caveat. It all has to relate to the players. In listening to Writing Excuses this week, that's a podcast about writing books, the hosts talked about world building. They said that everything you build for the world is only interesting in as much as it relates to the characters who are infinitely more interesting. I say prepare as much as you want to for each individual session, but always make sure it relates back to the characters and the players. Get the essentials down, what's going to happen next session, and then prepare some fun stuff for your players. Really do whatever you feel would be fun. That's the whole point of playing D&D, having fun. So do whatever feels fun. Some people say if it stops being fun, then stop prepping. But at the same time, prepping has to get done. So I say use your best judgment and just try your hardest with it. If you know you don't have anything prepared, you got to prepare something. But if you feel pretty good, then maybe you can relax. I hoped that you liked today's episode, and if you'd like more of today's content, then sign up for our newsletter. Go to how-to-b-a-better-dm.captivate.fm/subscribe, or you can just click the link in the show notes, which is infinitely easier than remembering everything I just said. And guess what? With that link, you can even sign up to play D&D with me or one of the other co-hosts as your DM. Well, it's something we're going to be starting up in March here. So sign up and make sure you are on that list for playing a one-shot with myself or one of the other DMs on the show. Thanks again for listening to today's episode. Come back next week for another amazing show. But until then, let's go ahead and roll initiative. Thank you for listening to today's show. We really appreciate your support and your patronage. We have a few more announcements to go over. First,
did you ever fall in love with the library as a kid? It was a place where you could experience 1,000 stories without having to buy 1,000 books. That is what Monsters.rent can do for your D&D campaign. You can rent and swap out as many quality miniature monsters and creatures for your D&D party as you could ever want, without having to buy them. You can rescue villagers from a kobold camp, or lead your party through the fighting forest, or many more adventures. We're coming out with new bundles all the time. Just sign up for our subscription to get access to your own personal library of minis. Go to monsters.rent to find out more. That's the website. Monsters, with an S, .rent. Get your library pass to a world of minis today.
we also wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Stardust and Dragons. I'm going to let one of the cast of Stardust and Dragons, Christian Hatcher, and his crew tell you a little bit more about it.
This August, a new adventure podcast is coming to a platform near you, filled with action,
Shoot one of the two of them. We can't keep taking hits like that.
drama,
Everything that she's been doing, everything she's going to do, finally sets in.
and stardust.
Help! Help! Someone, please!
Find out more about this epic odyssey at stardustanddragons.com, where adventure awaits in the stars.
That's all the announcements we have today. Again, thank you so much for everything you do for us. You make this show possible. Like we said before, we'll be back next week with another great episode, and until then, let's go ahead and roll initiative.